Now on BBC One, the Christmas night news with Maryam Moshiri.
Israel's Prime Minister says his country will intensify its fight against Hamas in Gaza in the coming days. Benjamin Netanyahu says the military campaign is not close to being over. In his Christmas message, the king emphasises the importance of values shared between religions at a time of increasingly tragic conflict around the world.
I pray that we can also do all in our power to protect each other. The words of Jesus seem more than ever relevant. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
Prayers in Ukraine to mark Christmas. We have a special report from the city of Kupiansk, close to the front line. A charity dip in the sea in Wales. Looks chilly, but the UK has experienced its mildest Christmas day for 7 years. While snow in Scotland has made it officially a white Christmas. Good evening. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was in Gaza today, saying that his country's military would intensify its fight against Hamas. He warned it was going to be a long war that's not close to ending. His comments come days after the US Secretary of State said Israel should lower the intensity of its strikes. Well, today, the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, said the group faced a fierce, violent and unprecedented battle. Hamas is designated a terror organisation by the UK government. Well, at least 70 people have been killed by an Israeli airstrike at the Maghazi refugee camp, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The Israeli army says it's looking into the incident. Meanwhile, in Bethlehem, in the occupied West Bank, Christmas celebrations were muted because of the ongoing conflict. Shaima Khalil sent this report, which some viewers may find distressing.
Heckled by the families of the hostages. Achshav, now, they chant, a demand for the immediate release of their loved ones. Benjamin Netanyahu reiterates the only way to get them back was to keep fighting, and that this military campaign won't wind down anytime soon.
We won't succeed at releasing all the hostages without military pressure, operational pressure, political pressure. And that is why there's one thing that we will not do. We will not stop fighting.
Mr. Netanyahu was in Gaza speaking to the troops on the ground, some of whom, he said, wanted to keep fighting till the end. The war in Gaza is not close to being over, said the Prime Minister, as the agony of Gazans continues, bearing the brunt and overcome with distress. Pointing to her pain. It hurts here, Mama, she says. Her mother is trying to console her. Late at night, their homes were bombed. The wounded kept coming to the nearby Al-Aqsa hospital, already overwhelmed, with no fuel or water and minimal supplies. In Gaza, there is no respite for the people or those trying to save them. For many, it was too late. The writing on these body bags says remains of Al-Maghazi. Abdurrahim survived the airstrike. His wife didn't. He says that in his building, several children and displaced people were killed.
Our block was meant to be safe, according to the Israeli military maps. But there are no safe areas in the Gaza Strip.
In a statement to the BBC, the Israeli military said it was looking into the incident, adding that it was committed to taking feasible steps to minimize harm to civilians. As the scale of the devastation becomes clear, so too does the challenge facing rescue teams, who've been struggling to get in with roads blocked after the strike. In Bethlehem, Christmas looks and feels very different. No tourists, no festivities, lots of prayers. This time of year, the eyes of the world would be on the birthplace of Jesus, but it's been stripped of any signs of celebration. Instead, there are messages of solidarity and calls to end the suffering. For the people here, those images of destruction and death coming from Gaza hit very close to home. The pain in Gaza is felt very deeply here. This year, it's replaced what is normally a time of joy. Shaima Khalil, BBC News, Bethlehem.
The King has delivered his Christmas message, emphasising the importance of universal values shared between major religions at a time of increasingly tragic conflict around the world. King Charles's message also had an environmental element, as he thanked those caring for our common home. And he praised what he called the selfless army of people who volunteer in their communities, as Nick Witchell reports.
At the church on the Sandringham estate, the King and Queen were joined by other members of the royal family for morning worship. The Prince and Princess of Wales were accompanied by their 3 children, George, Charlotte and Louis, who feature in a new black and white photograph issued by Kensington Palace. The Duke of York was with the family at church, and making a surprise return to the Christmas morning church appearance, the Duchess of York. It's thought to be the first time in nearly 30 years that she's been seen in public with the family on Christmas Day. After church, the family returned to Sandringham House for lunch and to watch the King's Christmas message. For this second Christmas broadcast of his reign, the King focused in particular on those who render service to others.
Over this past year, my heart has been warmed by countless examples of the imaginative ways in which people are caring for one another. My wife and I were delighted when hundreds of representatives of that selfless army of people, volunteers who serve their communities in so many ways and with such distinction, were able to join us in Westminster Abbey for the coronation earlier this year.
Community projects were all the more important, the King said, at a time of real hardship for many, as his family. Then he turned to his great passion, the need to protect the environment.
To care for this creation is a responsibility owned by people of all faiths and of none. We care for the earth for the sake of our children's children.
And then a message for a troubled world.
At a time of increasingly tragic conflict around the world, I pray that we can also do all in our power to protect each other. The words of Jesus seem more than ever relevant. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
A Christmas broadcast built around those 3 themes which matter so much to the King: service to others, the environment and interfaith relations, and concluding with a heartfelt prayer that people and communities will respect each other. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News at Buckingham Palace.
The Pope has called for an end to the violence between Israel and Hamas in his Christmas message. Addressing worshippers in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, he demanded the release of Israeli hostages and called for more humanitarian aid to Gaza. Here, the Archbishop of Canterbury has highlighted the suffering of children caught up in the war between Israel and Hamas in his Christmas Day sermon. Justin Welby said this year the skies of Bethlehem are full of fear rather than angels. He also referred to conflict elsewhere, including in Ukraine, saying around the world we are beset with violence. Well, for the first time in more than 100 years, Ukraine has marked Christmas Day today instead of in January. It's a way of cutting ties with Russia, which celebrates according to the Orthodox calendar. But with Ukraine at war, for many there's little cause for celebration. James Waterhouse reports now from the frontline city of Kupiansk, occupied for 6 months last year, and where Russian troops remain just 5 miles away.
Christmas in Kupiansk is a celebration in name only. Children were evacuated from this frontline city, and only 5,000 people remain. It used to be 5 times that. Days are punctuated with artillery shells and sirens. Life continues for those who've stayed, but it's a tense existence.
We all live in fear of death. When we go to work, we don't know what can happen, whether Russia will strike with rockets. We all live on the edge. We don't know whether we'll come back home alive.
17-year-old Sophia has lived through both occupation and liberation. Her dad is fighting, and she's not impressed with her country's fate being determined by sceptical Western politicians.
Perhaps they should come here and see for themselves what the situation is like and how much the aid is needed. If there's no help for Ukraine now, Russia will take its aggression further.
The Russians are 8 kilometres to the east of the city, but what Ukraine's military is worried about is them pushing once more up to the Oskil River before making another push. And that is the point Kyiv is trying to make. If Western support was to further slow down, then Russia won't stop there. It still wants the whole of Ukraine.
The briefest of pauses for a Christmas prayer. Large gatherings are dangerous here when Russian drones loiter above. Instead of these troops forcing out their invaders, it is them repelling constant attacks.
It's day and night. There are no breaks. It's 24/7. We have more targets, so we need more shells. They throw lots of men and machinery into battle. They don't pity anything.
It's hard to sell a victory which seems distant. Ukraine's struggle to contain Western doubt has left it with a new year looking far from certain. James Waterhouse, BBC News, Kupiansk.
The Food Standards Agency has recalled 5 types of cheese from 2 manufacturers because of risk of contamination with E. coli. Health officials have advised anyone who's bought 4 types of Mrs. Kirkham Lancashire cheese and another cheese by Route de Terroir to return affected products for a refund. Now, Christmas is a time for celebration for most of us, but for others it can highlight feelings of loneliness. Earlier this month, the BBC report featured volunteer Barbara. After losing her husband 18 years ago, she found Christmas difficult. But recently, Barbara began volunteering, which she says changed her life. Jane McCubbin caught up with her again.
At the start of December, Barbara told us that when her husband Mike had died, her life seemed to stop. Their last Christmas together, 18 years ago, was the last time she'd put up Christmas decorations.
That was my husband, Mike. Oh. I've got you with me, Mike.
But Barbara turned grief into good.
If I hadn't have gone doing volunteer work, I think I would have sat in that chair and just give up. Yeah, isn't that funny? I don't know why I didn't want to put that big tree up again.
It just didn't feel the same anymore.
No, it didn't feel the same.
Come on through, take a seat. Bring your knitting through, come on.
Barbara's story had touched people.
Come on in.
One person in particular wanted to send their very best wishes.
I'm going to dim the lights, everybody, OK?
Hi there, Barbara. Just wanted to take this time to say congratulations to you. You haven't put up decorations apparently for 18 years. That's since your husband Mike died. And yet you've turned your back on your own grief and are helping others to deal with the situation that you've been dealing with for quite a while. So I just wanted to say I send you lots of love, God bless, and keep up the good work with Age UK. God bless you.
Isn't that nice?
That's gorgeous, thank you.
So, you know what we've got to do now?
Yeah.
18 years is too long. Are you ready to put up some decks?
Yes. Oh, gorgeous colour. First one I broke.
1.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
That's Barbara's story. Now, here's a way to work off your Christmas lunch. I bet you need it. Around 2,000 people got into the sea at Porthcall's annual Christmas Day dip. The brave took to the water in a variety of costumes, let's say, all for charity. Well, the Met Office says it's been the warmest Christmas day for the UK since 2016, with a top temperature of 13.6 degrees Celsius at Exeter Airport. That's some way short, though, of the all-time record, which was 15.6 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, the Met Office has also officially declared a white Christmas. These pictures were provided by viewers as snow fell in parts of Scotland. Absolutely beautiful. That's all from me. A happy Christmas and good night.